Hello, today I'm going to show you how to do some quick editing on Premiere, sort of the basic tools you'll need, some of the more handy things and features to have. The screen that will launch every time you launch Premiere is this screen here, so you get a nice welcome menu. Hi Rowan. What you'll be able to see is everything you've worked on recently. If you've never used this before, this section here underneath recent will be completely empty. Now normally when you're starting a project you want to press new project, but I also just want to show everyone that there is a Learn tab here. So if you want to learn more about editing, Premiere have created a ton of videos on how to use the editing system. So if I miss something or something's not quite as clear, come into here, have a watch of the videos. This will always be here every time you open Premiere, so you can come in and do some editing from there. The first thing you'll want to do in Premiere before you even start making a project is organizing your file structure right. I'm a filmmaker, I like having my things nice and neat, but I assure you this will help you down the line, so if you end up moving anything, you know where it's all sitting. So as you can see here, I've got nice folder structures on here. If I'm going to create a new project, these are the files you're going to want to create, so let's just call this test editing, and then from here we can come in. And you want to create 3 folders. You'll want to create a footage. So this is where all of the video files are going to sit. You'll paste them inside of here. Then you'll want an editing folder. So this is where our Premiere file will sit because it creates a lot of auto saves. If you remove one, it can break the entire sequence. So if we keep it all in there, you'll never have to go in there, but it's just there. So you've got all of the nice files sitting there. And then finally, you want to have export, which is your end product that you'll be uploading to YouTube or uploading for a submission as well. So make sure you've got one of these folders set out. Sometimes I also like having an audio file if those files are separate, but normally it will all go into your footage file. Once you have done that, let's return back to Premiere, and the first thing we'll do is press Open Project, and then from here you want to find that file that you've just created. So I know my folders are sitting in here. Let's see, there it is, test editing. Open this up, press into your editing folder, and the only thing to do on this page is a lot of information. You can ignore it all, that's totally fine. Just in the top left is just give this a name. So I'll call this test edit. And then in the bottom right, you'll see create, press create, and this will then format you into the editing software. And it looks very complicated, but don't worry, I'll try and make it as easy as possible. What I'm going to do now is, because my window might look slightly different and yours might look slightly different to what is default, if you head to the window, so just at the top, and it's the same for Apple and Windows users, hit window, press workspaces, so the very top link here, scroll right down and you'll be able to reset to a save layout. So I'm going to do that, so it should look by default something very similar to what you're seeing now. Now I do like to have a move around, but I'll keep it all consistent so everyone's got what we've got. What I'll say is there is a lot on the screen right now and we can move all of this about. So this info panel, we don't need it. We can press these 3 dots just at the top and close that panel, and we can keep doing that for all of these on here because we don't want to see any of them. They're not needed, or not yet anyway. So we'll close all of those, and it creates as a nice big workspace for us to then create in. Now for simply creating things, all you'll need to do is head back to your folder structure, find your footage, and drag and drop into this project file here. So you'll see this tab, it says your project name, it says import media to start. So what I'm going to do is I do have some video files, some very rough ones, just so we can start piecing some things together. So what I've done there is I simply drag and drop those files across, and they will just pop up in there. Now you can keep it like this. Yet again, I'm a very organised person. I like to have everything in folders. So you'll see just at the bottom of this tab here, we have a new bin. And this is basically a file within Premiere. So I can call this footage 2. And then I can select all of these clips. So I've held my left mouse button, release that, press and hold, drag into my footage file, and there we go. That's all my footage nicely contained in there. Now that's completely optional. Let's actually get to some editing. So what do we need? I've got this nice introduction here, and I can review my footage before I commit anything to my timeline. So I can come in and I can move this file across, and you can see we've got a nice video of Annabelle talking. So that's cool, that's what we want. what I can do is if I know there's a certain bit of the clip that I want, maybe I've recorded for a minute, but I only need 30 seconds or a certain type, I can scrub through this footage with this little blue icon here. And let's say I really like what Annabelle's saying here. What I can do is select this button here to mark in, drag my icon across and select that again. And that all that will do is when I select this icon here, or if I select the clip and drag it across, it will just take that little bit of the clip. Now obviously you don't need that, and that's totally fine. What I'll do is I'll right click and I will then clear it in and out of that marker so I've got the whole clip again. This is cool. We can see what we've made, what we've recorded previously, but then how do we start piecing it all together? Very good question. What you want to do is actually create a timeline. So what I will do is I'll drag the clip across into my timeline so it will display my timeline on here. So this is where all my clips will sit. And then this is the end view here. So this is what I've recorded and this is how it's going to come out in the final version. So what I'll do is I'll drag and drop the Annabelle clip just across here. So you'll see my little hand changes to a clenched hand. We'll release that. And as you can see, we get this timeline pops up on here. Now, I can use the blue scrubber then to go across that footage from here, and I can then add different clips onto the timeline as well. So here we've got some clips of the library. So as you can see, I'm pressing through these clips and I can scrub through them just like that. And all I need to do is simply drag and drop that file. So you'll see it appears on this timeline here. So this is the order it's playing through then. I'm going to release that from there, and as you can see, those videos are now go together. However, I don't want this Staffordshire icon that pops up here because I want it just to go straight into this video of the library. So to then remove parts of a clip, you'll see there's some tools down the left hand side of this timeline here. So we've got this selection tool which allows me to pick up clips. I've got a razor tool, so this is how I'm going to trim my clips off. And the other ones that you might need is this hand icon, so it just allows you to move around a frame if we zoom in, but also a text tool as well. So if you're wanting to add some text on the screen, bearing in mind this won't be anything fancy, this will just be a text that appears without any animation. You can do that with that text icon here. So really, the only two you'll ever need is the selection tool and then the razor tool. So I'm going to select my razor tool because I want to chop out a bit of this clip, and what we'll do is just at the bottom of the timeline you'll see the scroll bar pops up here. What we can do is we can hold the left mouse button and tighten that across to the left, and as you see it zooms the timeline in so I can get a very accurate cut. So what I'll do from here is I'll move my playhead to the area I want to remove. So I want to cut before this red bit. Make sure that my little mouse icon is now selected as a razor, so as you can see I can't raise anything right now. And I'll move it to the timeline and it will change. And then I can left click and left click again on both of these clips. Select my selection tool, and then what I can do is I can move my playhead and I can see there's a new little trim. I can see there's a cut on my timeline. And what I can do is I can select these clips. So as you can see, those now appear white. So all I did there was press the left mouse button and select those. Then I can press delete on my keyboard, and that's gone now. So that's removed that little bit. And all I need to do to get these two clips together is I can either select this clip like so and move that across. So those two clips now play together. Or if my clips are there, I can select in between those clips and you'll see this white bar pops up. If I press delete again, it will also merge those clips together. So that's how I do that very quickly. Now, the other thing to note is you'll see just under here we've got the time code of what position this is. So this is 45 seconds. This is 44.49 seconds. Really, you want to make sure these three icons are clipped just because it allows you to edit a little bit easier. So as you can see, as I move these, they magnetize together so they're not overlapping unless I want it to overlap. So when I move those clips, there we go. They stick together and they stay together, which is very nice. Now that is some primitive editing, but let's say I actually want to do something a little bit fancier. I might not have the clips to do something fancy, but let's say I want to do something fancier. I'm going to drag another clip onto the timeline this time. And I just want a very nice and easy transition. We're going to move from one place to another. Well, in this source scale, you'll see there are a different number of tabs that just pop up here, and some of these won't be relevant to you just yet if you're just starting out, but the effects control, not the effects control, but the effects tab that you might have already closed down will allow you to add effects on. So we've not got that popping up here. What we'll want to do is we'll want to head back to our window, so where we changed the workshop, and select the effects panel from here. This will open up on the right. I don't like that. I like having my big workspace, so I'm going to press the effects word and I'm going to drag that across, and you'll see all these boxes move, and if I just hover where it says effects control and release, that moves it back over to this window. And I can resize these windows as well, so if I want a bigger workspace I can have that. So there we go. Now, transition, as you can see, we've got some different effects here. So let's just add a very simple transition. I'm going to go video transition, dissolve, and cross dissolve. Now I love this one. I'll whack it on pretty much anything. So what we'll do here is I'll select my cross dissolve, drag it down to the timeline, and as you can see, as I move between the ends of clips, you get a little blue box that pops up. What I will do is I'll just zoom in on the timeline again at the bottom, so you can see between these two clips. If I drag that cross dissolve across, you'll see that blue bar pops up. We've got to ignore that error. That's purely because of the clips I'm using. That won't happen for you. But if I play this now, you'll see it does a nice little cross dissolve. So that just goes whoop, and there we go, just like that. And that's one of the nice effects to have. For those of you who are doing something fancy and you've decided you want to walk with a camera, which I believe I've got this one here, does a little bit of walking. It might be a bad example, but I'll show you anyway. So I've got this one, I've shot it handheld, so let's say I've used my phone for example. I'm going to drag that clip across on the timeline, and you're thinking, oh, that's so shaky, I can tell every time I've stepped. Well, if you go into the effects tab, and this is a pro tip, go into the effects tab and just search in this magnifying glass here for warp stabilizer. So you'll see video effects warp stabilizer, just like we did with the last effect. Drag and drop that on top of the clip, and what this will do is it will try and take out some of that movement and some of those steps if you're doing a lot of mobile footage for your product. Now this can take a while depending on how fast your PC is, how long the clip is, so you have to give this a second. But it will do it, and sometimes it will look amazing, it will look exactly how you want, and sometimes it just won't work. And if it doesn't work, the way to remove that then is simply selecting the effect controls just at the top next to your effects window and finding the warp stabilizer. So you can see that's the progression it's done so far, and if I wanted to remove this, I simply select the warp stabilizer and hit delete on my keyboard, and that will remove it from there. Now there is a lot of information on here, and most of it is very complicated. However, there are YouTube videos that will help explain everything. Realistically, all you need to know is select this, press delete, and that will get rid of it for you. The rest of this will allow you, so if we go into motion, we can make the image bigger, we can move it on the screen, but normally you'll just want to leave this alone unless you're looking for something very specialized. So there we go, we've got that. I'm going to leave that to do its own thing, and just talk about some of the last things just to consider when you're actually editing. Now sometimes you might have clips on the audio but they're not appearing in this panel here. Just check, there's a little eye icon. Sometimes this can be enabled, and as you can see that would disable my video track, so make sure you just check those. They're off by default, so you can see your video, but sometimes you might accidentally press a button. You'll also see we do have mute tracks, so that works the same as the eye, but it just mutes all of this audio instead. You'll see this yellow bar that runs across the top. Normally this will remain yellow if you've not put any effects on, but if you have put an effect on, like we've just put this warp stabilizer on, it will appear red just because it needs to render. And to render, all I'll do is wait for this effect to finish, press the enter key, it will do it automatically, play back the video for me. So that's that. If you're wanting to add captions onto a video, so you've got accessibility features for all users, the way to do that would be to first head to the window tab yet again, scroll down and you'll see text. So mine's already enabled, which means it's probably in this window here. So what I want to do is I want to look through the tabs, and if they don't pop up here, you'll see there are 2 arrows pointing to the right. I can select that. I get an even further list of different tabs. I'll select text from here, and you'll see we get a nice captions button that opens up. Now you don't have any transcripts yet, so select the transcript, select transcribe, and from here what this will do is the AI will automatically generate what the transcript is for this video. So yet again, this will take longer if you've got a long video. For an hour's worth of video, it probably takes about 20 to 30 minutes depending on your device. For me, I've got a minute video and you saw how fast that was. And what we can do now is play through this video, watch it back. And as she's talking, I can see that cursor moving along, picking up what she's said. Now, it can be very good, but if you've got a heavy accent, sometimes it struggles picking up. So sometimes you'll have to come in and change a word. And to do that, you just double press. That will open up a text editor, change your word, press out of the box, and that will update for you. So that's as easy as that is really. And go through and take your time, make sure all of those words are accurate. And once that's done, head back to the captions tab just in the top left, press create captions from transcript. From here you'll get another pop-up window. We're going to use this little arrow to drop down. General accessibility feature, the only thing you need to worry about in here is the maximum length of characters. I like to set this at 35 just because it doesn't fill the page with loads of words. Everything else can stay the same, and I'm just going to press create captions. You give that a minute and it will load up, and those captions appear straight away on here. So there we go, captions. So the clip I edited was a little bit too intensive for the program that I record with, so I can't show that off. But it didn't work out, so I had to delete the clip. So it's always something to be aware of. Even though people say you can fix it in the post, sometimes you just can't. So in my situation, it will be better for me to go and re-record that footage and try and make my hands a little less shaky. But going back, the only other thing to note is you will see there is this halved button just underneath the primary source for my timeline here. Sometimes this is a quarter, sometimes this will be full. This just depends on how fast your PC will run and how well it runs with the editing software. So you want to set this lower. It will look bad when you come to play it back. So if I put this in a quarter now, it might appear a bit choppy. It's not actually that bad. But with different footage, it can look more choppier. If I set this to full, it will play back how it will record, how it will be exported. So this will be the final video, and it will look exactly like this. So there we go. That's just that. So just be aware that sometimes it might look bad. It might just be the playback resolution, and this will change when you've uploaded it finally. The very last thing to note before we export anything is just the sound levels. And I say this because sometimes the first time you make a video, you can absolutely destroy someone's ears by playing something a little bit too loud. So what I'm going to do here is I've just pulled out my little sound bar, so you'll see the green bars flash up and down as I talk or as this video plays, so there you go. And what you want to do is you'll want to make sure your audio falls between -6 and -12, just so you don't blow out anyone's ears. If you've set it to 0, it means the speakers are gonna blow. Maybe not blow up, but just the sound will just be horrendous. So you want to set it at probably about -6, and the way you work this out is by playing the video, looking at on average what this is. So you can see this sitting about -12 to -18, and I really want that at -6. So what I'll do is I'm going to select my audio, right click. Oh, a million options. Don't worry, ignore them all. The only one we're looking for here is audio gain, which as you can see is about 2/3 of the way down. I'm going to select this, and from here I'm going to want to look and do the maths and work out what's going to be good for this value here. So I'm probably going to want to make this 5% louder, so 5 on here louder. So what I'll do is adjust this gain by 5, so a little bit of maths, but I'm sure everyone can do it. And play that back. And there we go. That's a lot better. It's falling at 6 now. People can hear my audio. It's not too quiet. It's not too loud where it's peaking as red. And what you want to do is play back the video once more. Make sure that that doesn't go red. And if it does go red, drop it down again a little bit. So if the way to drop it down is you want to do minuses. So if I wanted to drop this down by 2, for example, we'll go back to audio gain. And instead of typing in 2, we'll type -2. And that will then bring that top value down. So it's a little bit more quieter. So that's your audio. Just make sure you're aware of that as well. When you've done all of your editing and you're happy with the final product and you're happy to export, you've got your captions ready, the next part is exporting. Now, as you can see, just in the top left here, you do have this export tab. So we will come and do some exporting here. I'm going to select export. You give this a second, it will pop this panel up. Now sometimes, and I'm going to say this just because it's happened to me a lot, if you don't have the blue box around this window, it might not export. So press your mouse button in here, make sure this is blue, come back to export, and then from here, I'll go through all the settings. Realistically, you can just hit export from here, but just for those who want some more peace of mind, we'll come in here. First thing is the file name. So obviously you want to change that to your video product. So this will be advert for this or interview about this. Next is your location, so where this is going to be saved to. So what you can do is select that, select an area you want to save it to. So this is not correct, this is not my test file. So we'll go into test editing. This is where your export folder comes into play, because then you've got all of your final products sitting in one area. Or if you like me, it'll be final version 2, final version 7, so on and so forth. Anyway, hit save. So that's now going to that area to be saved. So you know where that is. In case you do accidentally misplace it, you can save this to your desktop as well, of course. Your preset is how well it's going to be displayed. This will just take whatever we sorted out earlier on the timeline, but you can come in, and if you do have 4K stuff, this will be the place to change it. So I've dropped down here, you've got 4K. Only use this if the person who's recorded it or if your camera shoots in 4K. Otherwise, generally, you can leave it at 1080p. And then the only other one to bother with in all of these is just your captions. You've got 2 options here. Burn onto video, which means, as you can see, the captions have burnt onto this video. Or I can create a sidecar which takes the captions off my video but gives me a nice file, so when I come to upload my video into a video streaming website, I can attach that file and users will have the option to then turn my video on and have captions, or just remove the captions entirely. So they've got that choice instead of me forcing it upon them. From here, as you can see, you can publish. I personally have never used these. I'm much happier to go into the platform I'm using to upload this because it gives me more control. So I ignore this. But if you want to play around with this, please go ahead and feel free to do so. All you do once you've done this again is simply press the export button in the bottom right. So as you can see there, I'll press export. Now depending on how big the file is, depending on lots of different factors, how long it is, what type of footage we've shot, this can take ages, or it can be relatively quick. I've shot in 1080p. My PC I've made purely for video editing, so this renders out pretty quick because the video itself is only about a minute long, so I'm not too bothered. And as you can see, that's now done. I can close this jumbled mess. I don't need this anymore. And there we go. Now, one thing to say, and I haven't mentioned it yet, but it's extremely important. The most important thing to take away is to make sure you save your work all the time, because sometimes these programs, the more edits you put into it and the more effects you add to stuff, your PC can just not handle it and it can be tempted to crash. And these aren't things where you think, damned program. It's purely because the more things you add in, the more processing power it has to use. So remember, once you've created your project, Control S, Command S on a Mac. If you want to make sure you've saved it, go File, Save, and just keep constantly hitting save all the time. I get in a rhythm, and it's probably really bad. A form of addiction is every 30 seconds hit save, because you never know when it's going to crash. So if you've spent the last 2 hours making this wonderful video, it is the best thing anyone has ever seen, and the computer crashes and you didn't hit save, you've lost that work. Sometimes you might be able to recover it back, other times you won't be able to, so just make sure you hit save and you get in that habit. You know, every minute even if you've just moved a clip from A to B and then you've stopped to do something and you're like, oh, when did I save this? Yeah, good question. Hit save, because then you know when you've saved it. And if anything does go wrong, you can just go back to that version where you've hit save. But that's the basics of Premiere. I know there's a lot of buttons and a lot of panels, but essentially drag a file into your timeline, hit the snip button, snip out the bits in the timeline you want, delete them, drag the clips together, hit export, maybe add captions as well, and away you go. Now, like I said, you can always come back and do some learning. Premiere have got a load of videos, and they're probably a lot more very step-by-step-y than what mine is. And you will be able to find, even if you've left that home page, if you return back to your Windows tab here and hit Learn, you will see you get a window that pops out full of tutorials. So you'll be able to get beginner-friendly tutorials. You'll be able to do all sorts. So here you go. Here's a great one. Start your own video. What you can do is you can download that. And as you can see, get to know Premiere Pro, completing these 4 tutorials. So they'll be very tailored for beginners. And sometimes they even provide you quick tasks to do. So it will say, drag these 2 clips together. So that's a really good way to then expand your knowledge and skill set. And the other thing is YouTube. There's so many tutorials out there too, especially if you're wanting to do a really cool thing you've just seen on Joe Bloggs' vlog, and you want to know how to do that, you certainly can. Just type in generally how to do this on Premiere and it will pop up straight away. My base one is how to do a typewriting effect. You can type that in YouTube and you will see loads of different videos on different ways on how to do it, and they all have the same result. So find a video, sit down, spend some time, and if you're really wanting to create an awesome effect, learn how to do that. For the very basic editing, Premiere does this in a grand way, and hopefully my videos help too. I know there's a lot there, but I assure you, once you've started, it's sort of like a snowball effect. You know, maybe the first few hurdles really sets you back, but then all of a sudden it will just click into place. But hopefully this helps. Thank you for watching, and please let me know if this has helped, or if there's any recommendations or anything else you want to know, because what we can do is I can always pad this out and create different videos and different tutorials or Word documents or PowerPoints, whatever's easier to really fill in those knowledge gaps.